And here we are, since our last lesson when we were doing knitting and purling. Each row was a knit row, then a purl row. This is what we have created. Remember, below, this is what we created when we just did knit a row back, knit a row, knit another row. That's what you get. When you knit and purl, you get something that looks like that. If you look at the back side of this, you'll see it looks somewhat different on the inside, on the back side. This is what happens on the purl side of the fabric, the yarn, and this is what happens on the knit side. So that if you ever put your knitting down, you want to pick it up and decide whether you should be knitting or purling. On this side you should be knitting. On this side you should be purling. Now let's assume that we're finished and we want to bind off so that when we take the yarn off the needle, it doesn't all unravel. So we bind off. To do that, we go to the knit side and we knit 2 stitches. Loosely. And we do it loosely. We don't tighten them up. Now, we come back here, we pick the first knit stitch up, and we put it over the second stitch. That's called dropping a stitch. Now we knit another row, we knit again. Knit. Put another knit stitch up, and then we come back to the first stitch, bring it over the second one, and there we go. We knit again. Come back, and now we have 1 stitch on, and we bring it up and over the second stitch. So we're always bringing 2 stitches onto this needle, the right needle. Now see, we have 2 stitches. We go to the first stitch and bring it up and over the second stitch. All right, now we have 1 stitch left on the right needle, so we knit again. We put the second stitch on, then we come back to the first stitch, and we bring it up and over, completely over. All right, put another stitch on, and we come back, up and over, and then we just complete that. And I'll show you what it looks like when I get a few more stitches completed. Okay, we got about 5 more stitches to go. Take your time when you do this, because the last thing you want to do is have your yarn slip off your needles, and it's tricky. It could happen. When you take that stitch up, you've got to be careful not to let the second stitch slip off. Keep your finger behind. See how my finger's behind? And holding on, it's actually holding on to that second stitch so it doesn't slip up and off the right needle. See my finger there? It's holding on to that stitch so that I can pull the first stitch up and over. All right, we have 2 more stitches to go on the left needle. And final stitch coming up. And I'll show you what this looks like. And see, this is clean now, nothing left on it. Up and over. And there we are. Now, we cut this remaining yarn. Give us about 6 inches here. There we go. Here's the. And then what do we do now?
You gotta pull it. yarn through the stitch.
Oh yeah, now we're going to pull this yarn.
Pull the stitch way up.
Yeah, there.
Make a big loop.
Make a big loop in that stitch, and we put this.
You don't have to thread it. Just, okay.
We're going to put it right through there and tie it on. Okay? That way. There we go. And here we are. See that? It's all bound on. Look at that. Remember, this is the knit side, and this is the purl side. There you go.